How's it going? Welcome back, my beautiful sinners, to another great and amazing video here with your host, the Savior. It's a pleasure, as always, to have you join me today, and if you're new, please consider subscribing to the channel. That would help me out a lot, and it would mean a great deal to your humble narrator right here, okay? So my sinners, today we're going to be discussing why we need more games like Mafia Definitive Edition, why Mafia Definitive Edition was such a breath of fresh air in the gaming industry recently, and I'm going to talk about why that is. So if you can support me by checking out the original music that I make on Spotify, I would highly appreciate it. Also, check out the affiliate links down below in the comments. That would also be highly appreciated, my sinners. So let's get on with the video. Why is Mafia Definitive Edition so good? Why we need more games like this one, okay? So recently I've been playing through this game, and you may not know this if you're not, a regular of this channel. If you're not a sinner, I would highly recommend becoming one, because hey, it's 2020 and we're all sinners in this current day and age, aren't we? So I recently played Mafia Definitive Edition, and I've got to say, it's the first game in a long time that I actually really like, that I actually even love, okay? Because, like I've talked about before, modern day AAA games, okay, are usually regurgitated, recycled, and just absolute trash, in my opinion. They fill them full of microtransactions. Most modern day games have to have these huge, massive, open world, maps where they fill it with a bunch of BS and really boring tasks like fetch quests, like, go and climb a magical giraffe so you can scout the area. It's all the same stuff, it's all the same recycled mechanics. The NPCs are usually terrible. Games used to be amazing, okay? They used to be, actually structured with great storylines. They would actually have good, hard AI, not like we see today, where AI has become so terrible in video games. I don't know why, but, no one ever talks about that. And, the gaming industry has just become so stale because they know they've kind of got stuck in a loop where they think that, modern day games need to be massive, they need to have huge value for money, but actually, I don't find this is value for money anymore. These open world games are just the same old stuff. The Assassin's Creed games, the Watch Dogs games, those two are basically identical. Far Cry games, they're all just the same things. The first and the second games of them, the sequels were amazing, okay? They were great, but then when you start doing them time and time again, and when other developers just copy the same old mechanics and try and copy the same game pretty much, it becomes very, very boring, okay? There's not really many linear story-driven games anymore, and to me, I don't know about you, okay? I don't know about you, my sinners, but for me, what makes a story great, what makes a game great, I should say, sorry, is the story, is being invested and immersed in a video game, not having tons of, help with, UI and HUDs and, all this microtransactions and all these things that take you out of the actual gaming experience. The last game that was actually great, in my opinion, was Red Dead Redemption 2, because it did just that. It really immersed you in the world, it had a great story, and it was an open world with tons of things to do, had the best of both worlds, and that's why Cyberpunk 2077 is also going to be amazing. But I'm talking about the mainstream games. The most games nowadays are usually these, PvP, multiplayer, looter shooters, or they're either these open world, terrible, just clones of each other. Yes, of course you can get great indie games now and then, but you've got to really dig in the dumpster for them, okay? Because there's so many games now. Everything is so saturated. The entertainment industry is so saturated. Movies have the same problem, television has the same problem, and games have a massive problem because there are so many of them. And a lot of them just get completely swept under the rug, so it's very hard to find good games. That's why I'm talking about the main AAA games, the polished, the ones that are huge, like Bethesda. So many of these developers have just recently completely fallen in disgrace, in my opinion. They just make the same old stuff. It's all very boring. It's not really engaging. And that could just be me. Maybe I just don't like gaming as much as I used to, and I know that is true, but I just see it objectively from when I was a teenager, when I was growing up on the PlayStation 2 with Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, all these great story-driven games with, you know, interesting worlds, compared to modern day games. They just don't hold up. They're just not as interesting, not as engaging. So that's why we need more games like Mafia Definitive Edition. And the reason why Mafia Definitive Edition is so good, and the reason why Mafia Definitive Edition is amazing, is because it sticks to the old style of game. And that's kind of obvious, funny enough, because it's a remake, I know, of an old game. But because it's been modernized, because it has shiny graphics and they've changed things around, you know, it really just shows you what 2020 gaming could actually be like if we go back to the old ways of telling stories, of having more linear games, of having more engaging characters and story-driven games, that we can actually have amazing games, but instead we have this idea that AAA games have to be this open world design with so many, you know, little objectives to do that are just boring. So that's why we really need to return to the good old traditions of gaming and scrap this idea of what makes a good, you know, AAA game, because in all honesty, this was the funnest game I've played in a long time, and that's because it's a remake of an old game, and it does things to basically bring it to the modern generation and make it really interesting. So that's why I love it so much, and that's why I really think we need to return to linear games. And it doesn't have to be linear games, like Red Dead Redemption 2. That was open world, but it wasn't just following the same old tropes and the same old mechanics that all these other games do. It was doing something different, and that's why I've enjoyed Mafia Definitive Edition so much, is because, you know, all these games are the same. All these games are identically the same. I'm talking about the bare bone mechanics. You know, if you strip away all the surface, all the world building, all the characters, all that stuff, if you look at it at the core code, it's pretty much the same stuff. The way they control, the things you can do in them, how the camera works, all that kind of stuff. Mafia is very much like a lot of other games out there, but at least it has new mechanics that I haven't seen in many other games. Like in Classic Edition, in Classic Mafia Definitive Edition, and, you know, with the remake, because you can play it on classic mode, you can actually, you know, control cars manually. You can actually change gears, and just a small mechanic like that just changes it so much from any other, you know, like GTA, for example. And it's such a small, you know, little effort. You know, if people just take the time and effort to actually implement, you know, interesting mechanics into modern day games, it can basically just change the gaming industry. And I feel like I'm not the only one who misses this style of gaming, and I think a lot of people really want this style to come back. So yeah, those are just my thoughts on why we need Mafia Definitive Edition like games, why we need more story driven games and more linear AAA games, why that's important. So yeah, that's my opinion, my sinners. Let me know yours down below in the comments. And I hope you have a beautiful and magical day, and I hope that if you're new, you did subscribe and check out the music on Spotify. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one. Have yourselves a blessed day.